Welcome to First But Last, brought to you by the Wyoming Humanities. I am your host, Emmy DeGrappa. Wyoming is called the Equality State because we were the first to give women the right to vote. 150 years later, we wonder what Wyoming women think about the progress toward equality now. Let's find out, and thank you for listening. Today, we are talking to Dr. Sandy Caldwell. She is the Executive Director of Wyoming Community College Commission. Today, we're talking with Sandy about her breadth and depth of experience in education, as well as her journey to Wyoming. Welcome, Sandy.
Why, hello, Amy. How are you doing today? It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to just talk to you about your journey to Wyoming and just your great experience in education. I'm sure you have such depth of experience that to share with us, really.
Sure. Amy, so where do you want me to start? You mean to just tell you a little bit about my whole journey and why I even do what I do?
Yes. So I want you to start there. I want you to tell us about your background, where you grew up, and what was your journey to Wyoming?
Sure. First, I will say Wyoming is our home. Once we moved here, it just became the place where we raised our children. And I will tell you, we did leave for a few years and missed it desperately, and then looked for a way to come back. And I will tell you, it is in our hearts, and it is a part of who we are now. But how I started this whole shebang is, I will tell you, I'm from a little town in Oklahoma. I am from the Choctaw Nation. I am a member of the tribe of the Choctaw Nation. If you look up Choctaw County in Oklahoma, it's one of the 10 and a half counties of the nation. It is well known as the poorest county in the state of Oklahoma.
Wow.
I will share, and I've learned to share this rather openly. I became an independent miner at the age of 16. And in that journey, I'm the youngest of 5 kids. 6 years between me and the oldest. One of those is actually a cousin, but it really doesn't matter when you're sharing a bedroom with a furniture lying down the middle of the room. And just through a series of events, my parents moved away, and really I was just on my own. I supported myself by working at Pizza Hut, which was the nicest restaurant in town. And they let me stay out of the tribal foster system. Because I was doing well and lived with some friends of mine and was self-supporting. I was able to get free lunches and that kind of thing. But it was a little bit rough without the kind of support from the family structure. And so I will tell you that I was in a little bit of trouble, I would say. Maybe not always seeing school as the most important, particularly if I was working late at night. I had a school counselor who intervened and just said, "You're going to end up in a lot of trouble. Why don't you go to the community college while you're still in high school? Let's get that mind doing something. Too much free time for that brain." And that's what happened. I went to Paris Junior College. It is one of the reasons I'm such an advocate for the rural-based community colleges and serving students that were in an at-risk population. I was certainly one of those, being from a Native population, independent miner, avoided, they let me age out, actually, of the foster system before I was ever placed. And it was a community college, frankly, a rural-based community college that really lighted a fire for me thinking about a different way that I could approach life, and that it wasn't just survival. I could, in fact, look forward and plan a future, and education was my pathway to do that. So we talk about bridges out of poverty and empowering women, particularly women that find themselves in sometimes challenging family dynamics and financial dynamics, that there are ways for you to succeed. And for me, that was definitely through the community college. I went on, graduated from Oklahoma State University. I have a degree in math. And I got a master's degree in statistics, and actually went into ag-based research for quite some time. Married young, I did. And my high school boyfriend at the time, he's my husband now 30 years.
That's great. That's great. I love hearing that.
Yeah, he likes adventure. And then I just really felt that there was this need for me to be serving and giving back. And I will tell you, I did quit my full time job to go teach adjunct at that same community college where I was a student. Yeah.
Where were you working full time when you decided to quit and work as an adjunct professor?
So I was working at the South Central Agricultural Research Laboratory in Lane, Oklahoma. Look that up on a map. It's in Pushmataha County in Oklahoma. And it is a joint venture between the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Oklahoma State University. And I worked for the Department of Entomology, mostly on coal crops and cucurbits, and mostly watermelons, my specialty. Know a lot about it. I could do the science side of it, but I really felt compelled to do the work at a community college. And I had taught at the university. And at that point is when I really made my decision that I was going to pursue the route of the community college because it's so community based and uplifting for the work that it does in a region. And in where I grew up was a high Native American population, high African American population, Hispanic population that definitely experienced the equity gap, and particularly in such a rural area. So that kind of started my whole love affair with the American Community College, and I ended up going and getting my doctorate in post-secondary education and with a focus on community colleges and the research around post-secondary education and the power of the community colleges. I became a full-time faculty member, and once I had finished my degree, we were looking for advancement. I will tell you that I knew a lot about one community college in one state, but I really wanted to know more on the landscape of the impact in the regions at community colleges. And that's how we ended up in Wyoming. I went to work at Western Wyoming Community College in Rock Springs in an administrative position, and we just loved it. Our kids are both graduates of Rock Springs High School, go Tigers. One graduated from Western and another one graduated from Casper College. And I'm very pleased to say both are university graduates, one from UW and the other one from Fresno State. And from there, I will tell you, I became very involved in other types of effort. I've always been very active in the faith community, particularly in the outreach work. And then I served on the Wyoming Women's Foundation. I was actually the board president at one time, and the Wyoming Community Foundation because of the work that it does in the state of Wyoming. So very important that we are always looking to support people and enrich their lives in a way that is meaningful. So that's kind of it. I did go on to become a college president. I was college president at Reedley College, one of the few rural-based colleges in the state of California, and just loved that college. It was just a great place, and I got to see some of the same challenges that happen with people that find themselves in challenging situations, and particularly low-income first generation, minority, and particularly women of color. And my college was about 70% minority serving institution. So it was had a lot of role to play in that. But this opportunity came back to open, and I knew how fabulous the Wyoming community colleges are, what they do for our state, because we don't have regional universities, and how impactful they are for all of the counties in the state. And wanted to come back and be a part of this great state and the really deep work that happens with the colleges in the state. So that's kind of my story. At the end of the day, it comes from this place of personal experience and knowing that it's not easy work. It would have been very easy for me to have not taken that step. It really took intervention. I'm a very positive outcome. The investment in my work certainly has paid off in giving back to the community in multiple ways, for sure. So that's just kind of that's me, Emmy. You got it.
Wow, that is great. I'm going to take you back in time for a minute
Sure.
because I want to know what it's like to grow up on a reservation and maybe understand why your parents moved and understand why you stayed and didn't move with them, and how that separation took place.
Yeah, so the Choctaw Nation is a very interesting place. It's actually the lower 10 and a half counties of Oklahoma. So it's the entire region. So
Mhm.
it's not reservation based, it's sovereign nation based.
Okay.
Very interesting. And we're very active tribal members, I will tell you that. So there's high poverty in the area. Generational poverty creates very specific dynamics that make it very difficult. It's the momentum around that in order to break that cycle. And
Mhm.
my parents left because of opportunity. They saw the poverty just increasing. I sometimes look back in that time, and I don't know what my parents were thinking, and they were just struggling themselves at the time. And I think they felt like I was okay, I was doing well. And rather than moving me away from that, which they didn't give me an option, I'm going to be very blunt about it, they had to get their act together. And I at least was doing okay. And I think that's how it happened. So the tribe didn't put me in foster care, put me as an independent minor, which allowed me to get on the free lunch program, allowed I had to be able to eat, and allowed me to age out because I was doing well.
You must look back on that time and think, how the heck did I do that? I mean, how did I survive that? And I want to know, you must have a lot of inner strength because you, even though you said you were kind of the wild child getting in trouble, uh, but you still found a way to pick yourself up and do the next thing. And that takes some strength. And so, besides your counselor that you talked about, who were other people that really supported you?
Yeah, you know what? There were some. I'm going to be very honest. There were some really strong women who intervened in my life in ways I probably didn't realize at the time. I did have a strong faith family, very small congregation, but it was people that I had grown up with. So they just kind of kept checking in on me along the way. I did at one point finally move in with my grandparents who were close by. I think there were just some really, I can think of them very specifically, who just kind of said, "Hey, we want to help you through this. How are you doing? Come by and see us." And who really encouraged me to, you should do this, you should do that, look at these opportunities, so that I knew that the doors weren't closed. It would have been very tempting. I could have just been a waitress and continued to do that, but they just knew I had potential, and they kept reminding me of that. And it is just something that I, to this day, recognize that it does take someone bringing it to your attention of the potential that you have, because it's really easy for that self doubt and the need to just survive to take over. And also, when you do fail, because I had a few of those, that you don't give up. That's not the signal that you shouldn't try. You tried that one didn't work, but what about this? Instead of just falling back on what you know, getting over the fear of failure in pursuing different opportunities took some really great intervention in some people who had seen me grow up.
Well, and I do think it is amazing that not that you just went on to the community college, but then you continued on in your education and found a lot of value in that. And I think that that is wonderful because you understand the importance of education, especially when you come out of poverty,
Yes.
that it does take you to a different place. And I think because my dad was the first Hispanic to graduate with his doctorate from Colorado State University. And he always said that education made the difference.
Yeah. So I will tell you, it absolutely. And it was, come on, I have a degree in math and another one in statistics. Data seems to speak to my brain. And it's compelling information whenever you see you have these options. If you don't complete high school, you are pretty much guaranteeing your lifetime of poverty. If you move forward in that, it's not a guarantee. It doesn't say if you go to college, you will do great. It's if you go that direction, you have more options in creating that. It's going to make that easier than if you don't have that. Not that there aren't exceptions of all of it. I mean, that's always the case. But the data is very clear. If you don't complete high school, you will probably have poverty level income. So people were pointing this kind of information out to me, and it made sense. And I knew it would be hard. Well, if it was easy, it wouldn't be worth doing. So I did have that mindset of you won't get there if you don't work hard in the first place. And it certainly wasn't going to be the case with the cards I had been dealt.
Well, so what do you think about, because there is a lot of young people that don't see the value in education right now because, well, and the pandemic hasn't helped that because a lot of young people have graduated without jobs and they have different attitudes about higher education. Not that they don't graduate from high school, but it's like, is it trade school? What are the other alternatives to help people succeed? Because they're thinking, well, not everybody is meant to go to college. I mean, it's just, there's different attitudes right now.
Yeah. So what I would say is it's very important that we broaden out and widen what we mean by the definition of going to college. For example, all the community colleges in the state of Wyoming all provide the trades. That's what they do. They do the Associate of Applied Science degrees and the certificates. So those are great avenues to do that. And so when I say college, when I say get a credential or a degree, that's what I'm talking about. It isn't only moving forward in receiving a bachelor's degree or higher. It's also recognizing that you have a lifetime career. And so it isn't just the job. Sometimes you hear it called the ABCs: get a job, get a better job, make sure you get a career. Those are the ABCs. You want a pathway in order to do that. So I always think about, you've got to help people be cognizant that you don't want to train the next generation of displaced workers in fields that are no longer going to exist. The challenge is we don't know exactly what's going to exist. When I was in college, there was no such thing as a webmaster, and we can't live without one now. So those are just examples of that. There are some trades at one time we couldn't imagine that particular one won't always exist, but they do evolve. So you want to make sure that whatever trainings, I think the trades are fantastic. Trades lead to associate degrees. Associate degrees are all transferable in some way or another, whether that is traditional degree, but there's also what are called the applied science bachelor's degrees. And that is to add in the business component and leadership. So if you have a trade, you want to be able to run that trade business, for example. So to me, I always make sure that they think about it's not just the job for today. It is making sure that you are able to be flexible and adaptable and have transferable skills as the economy and the marketplace changes.
I love what you said about education, that we need to broaden the definition of higher education, that we just can't think about it as, a bachelor's degree, that we have to think about it as the degree that puts you on a career path, whether you're a journeyman, to become an electrician or just, all those things. The other thing that really is interesting to me is that you've obviously been a career mom and you have 2 kids. And I think about career moms these days and wow, just the pressure of working full time and raising your kids. What was that like for you?
It was crazy. I don't even know how else to say it. I remember just talking about that last night. How did we do that? I mean, I was raising the kids, we were both working, and I got a doctorate in the middle of that. I don't know how we did it. We just did it. There were days when things collided and it just didn't work very well on that particular day. And you just have to know the sun is going to come up tomorrow. That's what's going to happen. The day will end, the sun will come up tomorrow, and you'll deal with whatever you've got to deal with at that time. Priorities, planning, being very organized. I don't know how else to say that. It was a big, full, crazy life, and it still is.
Yeah, I mean, I think about my girls and raising kids right now, and it's like they love their kids, but they're both career moms. One of them is getting a master's degree, plus she works, and the other one has full time. She's an entrepreneur. And now with the pandemic and homeschooling, they're like, I did not sign up for this. I did not.
I don't know how. I could not imagine doing all of that, particularly when I was a faculty member, and the schedules are just crazy. And kids, and I don't know how they're doing it. Right, hats off to all the parents right now who are trying to, if they're having to work from home, or even not if they're working from home and their kids are home. I don't know how you do that with a first grader. I can't imagine what that's like. So hats off to them. Both of my sons, I have two sons who I'm very, very proud of. They value education, but I hope that we've raised them with an appreciation and gratitude for having the opportunities that they have had and that we have had. Of course, I had challenging circumstances, but you know what? I'm grateful every day that I was able to take advantage of those opportunities and have the ability to give back. So our sons are one's in human resources down in Denver, and the other one is actually because of coronavirus. He is now working on his master's degree at Carnegie Mellon from Cheyenne, Wyoming, because he's in the Peace Corps. He has a heart for service as well. And he was in Kosovo and middle of his service time. And they evacuated all the Peace Corps volunteers that were working in developing countries. So my son was working on economic self-sufficiency of the youth, particularly women and girls, in a very young country that had very strict identity roles. So I think both of them really took a lot from the challenges of growing up with two working parents.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think it's paid off for them, but one of them's upstairs. I'm working from home in my house, and he's upstairs working on his master's degree from Carnegie Mellon while he's trying to figure out what he's going to do with his life and public policy.
Oh, wow. So, because the Wyoming Community College Commission is such, a big name, can you just kind of define and break it down? What exactly is it that you do there?
Okay, so I can answer that pretty quickly. The Community College Commission is the coordinating body on behalf of the state of Wyoming for the 7 community colleges in the state. Its job is to advocate for community college education statewide, to coordinate across the colleges. We manage the funding allocation of the state to the community colleges, and we are responsible for accountability and reporting the colleges on behalf of the state.
Wow. Let me see your gray hair. No, I'm just kidding.
It's getting fixed today. I have an appointment today.
Yeah. It's like, wow, Sandy, that is a lot. And there's a lot that encompasses, well, just allocating, and distributing the funds and making sure that everything for every college becomes equitable.
Yeah, it's hard. And of course, the local boards manage the individual colleges along with the presidents, which I'm grateful for. That allows them to be flexible and adaptable in the local areas and to be the most responsive to their communities. I mean, how a college, and I'll just use two very different comparisons. Central Wyoming College, how it interacts with its communities in Fremont County and how it interacts in Teton County are not the same, and how they have to address the population base. And all of that is very different from how, for example, Eastern Wyoming College impacts how they interact with Goshen, within Goshen County and Torrington, but also Douglas and Converse County, and then up in Crook and in Weston counties, right? So we rely on them to implement on the local level, and we coordinate with them to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the state of Wyoming because they have such a large investment in the colleges. So yeah, it's a lot, but the colleges are fantastic. I mean, the state of Wyoming community colleges ranked number one in the country this year. They were number 8 last year, and number one this year for state.
Wow, that is something to be proud of, seriously. Well, I have one last question for you, because you've given so much great advice and you have so much experience in just not just your growing up experience, but your educational background. What advice do you like to give young people in order to inspire them to not give up and to succeed in what they're doing?
So my advice is always don't let your circumstances of today and your fear of the unknown prevent you from pursuing your opportunities of tomorrow. You're capable, and there are ways to move forward. So that's really my advice and guidance is don't let the restrictions that you see today define who you are tomorrow. Wyoming people have a superpower called optimism. And really lean into that. And know it may be very difficult and may be challenging right now, but it's not hopeless. And there is an ability to pursue a bright tomorrow.
Thanks, Sandy. Thanks for being with me.
You bet.
Thank you for listening to First But Last, brought to you by the Wyoming Humanities. Please join us again next week as we continue our conversations with women from around the state. You can also find us at thinkwy.org, where we continue the conversation on our blog about the history, journey, and the challenges of Wyoming's intrepid women living in the Equality State. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show and leave us a review on iTunes. Thank you for listening.